Morning, everyone. I just want to. This is our chapter three, talking about chapter three, and diving into a little bit more the next layer of program, which is input output. This is a very interesting and very practical chapter that we do in industry. Ultimately, what we do in computer is basically one of the things is to process, taking input and we output it to some sort of moving data in and out, and that's deals with a lot of things that we do in our daily tasks with it. If you think about how we access the internet every day, we access some sort of web service, web application programming language to move in day out. You check your email, you authenticate with your username, password. You can go back to the database, back and move in and out data with it as well. Checking account, so on with it. So that's what this chapter is about. It's dealing with is the actual input, output, and the format of the output with it. And one of the library files I will allude to you is called, remember it says pound include IO manip. Input output manip means short for manipulation with it. So we're going to talk about a great length with that as well. There's about 39 slides in here, and I'm going to again do multiple series of these videos that we're about to get started on here. I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to talk to you about what a stream is and examine what's the input output of the stream. Explore how to read in data. You're going to create a sample, a .text file, bring that data in, move it in and out with it. There's a lot of what's called predefined function that you're going to talk about. So these predefined functions are already built into the compiler with the programming language with it. And we're going to see some 5 different type of input streaming functions: the get, the ignore, the put back, and the peek. The get, the ignore, the put back, and the peek with it. And really kind of neat practical functions that we see with it as well. What happens when you have an input failure? All right. I'm going to show you how to do write a little data, how to have a standard input device with it. Deal more with a string data type with it. Remember that pound includes string library file that we are using with it. Excuse me. And then we're going to talk about how to debug logical errors with it, and then become familiar with the input output with it. This is a neat chapter. Let me start with this first one. Is the I/O sequence of byte streaming and source. Well, if those of you who have ever been on who is not actually been on YouTube, right? You can actually watch YouTube video like you are watching my video right now. It's actually being streamed, meaning you don't have to wait for it to completely download and watch the movie. It's been fed through. The data has been fed through as streaming with it, and what's called input stream and output stream. Input streaming is basically you are doing a sequence of character from an input device to a computer. So it's going into the processor and interacting with the RAM with it. Output stream is basically a stream of character from the computer to the device with it. So there's 2 types of streaming that you're going to see with it as well. Using the IO stream header file, this is one of the things I talked to you alluded to as part of your skeleton with it. It contains these 2 variables, and then it allows you to use these 2 variables as CNC out with it as well. So allowing you to use, remember that using namespace std, all right, semicolon, it allows you to actually use the CNC out, the common input output with it as well. Here are the 2 variables, I stream, O stream with it. So it breaks it down to what we just talked about with it in here. Well, there's another syntax. If you recall the syntax of inputting a statement using the CN as the extractor operator. You're extracting, you remember how you actually write into a variable with it, CN variable. So you have 2 variables here. Remember what variables are? Identifiers, right? The 3 identifiers that we talked, the 3 types of identifiers: variable, function, and constant. Variables are what's called identifiers with it. The extractor is the greater than. Don't confuse this with the less than, and is what? Insertion type of operator. So this is extraction operator with it. Okay, so the variable is on the right hand side of the operand. This is what this is saying with it. No difference between the CN with the multiple variables and multiple CN statement with 1 variable. With the scanning of the greater than, skips all the white spaces. So if you had a space that's after this or before this, it wouldn't matter with it right now. with it. So white space has actually been excluded basically with it as well. Remember, depending on if you have char or an int with it. So here's for example. Here's an example. Your data type of an A is a char, an int, or a double. We talked about different data type in chapter 2, correct? So entering a char into an int or a double will cause you to have an input failure. Why is that? Well, char is a letter, remember. It's the letter of the alphabet, valid for input one printable character except for a blank. So an int, an integer, right, possible for a negative or positive sign. A double is anything that has a float that precedes with a plus or a minus with it. So these are the type of stuff that you're going to see that will prevent what's called input failure if you actually have something like this. All right, I'm going to stop right here. This is a good place to stop, to pause for a moment.